Did you claim that your daughter was being physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
To a point.
I really don't understand two people who hate each other more than they love their child. Period.
This is Judy Justice.
Ms. Brown and Heather Palin are suing Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, for impound fees, harassment, and defamation.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2142, Brown, Palin versus Mannings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Palin, this is your former husband.
That is correct, Your Honor.
How long were you married?
18 years?
And this is your daughter.
Correct.
Is this your only child?
With Mr. Manis, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
You have other children?
One other, yes.
How old?
32.
When did you and Mr. Manis separate?
I moved out of the family home in March of 2018.
And this is your boyfriend?
Correct.
I'm going to, in broad strokes, at least try to reconcile both the complaint and the answer in this case. I assume there was a time when your daughter, whose first name is? Trisha, was living with you after the separation.
We had a mutual divorce decree of 50-50.
And was that honored?
Until September 4th of 2020, Mr. Manis had brought Trisha back to my home. And while we were out of the home, he had her pack her belongings.
No, okay. Let's stop there. Trisha, how old are you?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
Right subsequent to the separation and the divorce, until September of 2020, you shared custody.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Trisha decided she would prefer to live with her father.
Correct.
For whatever reason. I don't have to go into it, because this doesn't really have to do with who she chose to live with or where she was living. It has to do with a car. Okay. So while she was living with Mr. Manis purchased a car.
Yes, ma'am.
For her use.
Correct.
In what month did you purchase a car for her use? Month and year?
Oh, boy. I believe that was probably February of 2019, I believe. 18 or 19.
Well, let's figure it out.
It was about 6 months prior to the case with her. So September 4th, we had the car. It would have been probably June or July of the same year.
So you bought her a car a couple of months before she decided to come and live with you?
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
She had just obtained her driver's license.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get a timetable. Right before she decided to come to live with you and not have 50-50 custody anymore, you purchased a car for her.
Correct.
And she drove that car in June or July, August?
Correct.
At your house?
At both houses.
She was allowed to go to take the car to their house?
Correct.
When she saw her mother?
Yes.
And then bring it back?
Correct.
There was a time when you took the car away from her. When was that?
Probably mid-August.
Mid-August of 2020?
Correct. Well, the threat was to take the car away because her grades were slipping. I didn't actually take the car away.
When did you take it away?
I actually never did take it away. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend decided to purchase her another car to eliminate my threat of taking away the car.
Well, I don't know if that's because, but they decided to
Correct.
purchase another car. And what did you do with the car that you had gotten for your daughter?
I sold that.
When did you sell it?
Probably a month or so after she got the other car.
And the threat was made to your daughter because you were concerned about how she was doing in school or how she was doing socially. What were the reasons?
Well, her grades were slipping. Okay. So I wanted her to concentrate more on her grades rather than...
Grades were slipping?
Correct, at school.
Did she give you any reason for that?
She was under a lot of pressure with the divorce.
So you purchased a car, Mr. Brown and Ms. Palin, with the understanding, according to your complaint, that the car would remain in your name. There would be payments made on the car, and once the car was paid, it would transfer to Trisha. Well, one thing led to another. Things sort of went south. And according to what I've read in these papers, you got sort of annoyed. And the car that you had purchased was in the physical custody of Trisha, who was living with her father, and Mr. Manis caused the car to be towed and impounded, which caused you substantial expense to get the car out of impound. And he did that maliciously.
Correct.
And you want him to pay those expenses because you did, in fact, get the car out of impound, subsequently sold it. How much were the impound fees?
$1,565.22, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, in defense of that, acknowledges that he towed the car, your car. He towed the car, which was at your house?
Your Honor, I had
Where was the car?
the car at the time was at my house.
That's what I'm asking you. The car was at your house. You had it towed to impound. And you had it towed on what date, sir?
The car was impounded on September 4th,
Of what year?
2020, I believe.
And your defense for doing that,
Your Honor, he
just a
requested.
second. Your defense for doing that is that you were merely following Mr. Brown's instructions.
And the police officers.
You were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Correct.
Yes, you have a police officer here.
I have several police reports, Your Honor.
About what?
This isn't just about the car. There's several years of harassment.
No, I'm dealing with the car.
I understand.
Right now, I'm dealing with the car.
So I have the several officers that came instructed us to get the car removed from the property.
Well, that may be, sir. You can have the car removed from the property and ask the police to have it deposited in front of their house.
I understand.
Yeah, you chose not to do that.
May I show you his request to have the car towed? He offered a reward for the car to be towed.
Just a second. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong so far.
Scott grins and shakes his head. Caption coming up.
See, what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre.
Scott shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Curtis, Heather, and Scott.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin claim Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, owes for impound fees. Scott is countersuing Heather for filing a false CPS report.
Okay. You had the car towed to an impound. You did not call him or your ex-wife the day that you had the car towed to impound. It was some period of time later, if the fees for impound were $1,500. Your excuse for that is you were merely following his request. His request. That's what you wrote in your answer. Is that wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so now we know that you didn't notify them when you had the car towed.
Your Honor.
Because you could have had the car towed to the local police precinct and called them and said, come pick up the car. It can't be in front of my house anymore.
Your Honor,
He was actually at my house that night.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
the police, when they came to our house, the car was present. They acknowledged the presence of the car.
You can't tell me what the police did, sir.
I have the reports, Your Honor.
I'd like to see, I will see the report. What I'm asking you is, there are two things. If you wanted the car out of your custody and you wanted to quietly and stop the friction, send it back to the people who purchased it, you could have done that. You chose not to do that.
Your Honor, the reason I chose not to do that is because of I have several false allegations from CPS, the police. I did not choose to have any contact
You
with
don't
them
have to have any contact with them, sir.
in order to.
You don't
get
have
in
to
the
have
car.
any contact with them. Just like you paid a tow truck company to take the car to impound, you pay the tow truck company, you live in a private house or an apartment.
Private house.
You have the tow truck company drop the car off in front of their house. Now, after you had the car towed to an impound company, did you contact them in any way?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was instructed
Did you
not
ask
to
the
by the
police to contact them and tell them?
The police knew, yes.
I didn't ask you what the police knew. You can't tell me what the police knew. So you had the car towed on September the 4th. And when were you notified the car was in impound?
I received certified letter on September 26th, which was a Friday. It said to contact them Monday through Friday between 8 and 4.
Just a second. You received that on September 26th.
Yes.
Is that the first notice that you had
That's
that the
the
car
first-
was impounded?
Correct.
That's
Okay. So now the onus is upon you, Mr. Manis. I want you to prove your defense to me. And your defense was you were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That's all I want to see.
Here you go, Your Honor.
Scott hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So this says $100 reward to anyone that impounds my car. Call a tow truck and tell them to contact me.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
know this number.
Yes.
Yes. Well, did you do that?
The tow company sent them a letter on 9/10 of 2020, and I have the proof of that also, Your Honor.
Yeah, I would like to see what you're looking at. That's not on September 4th.
No.
That's not on September 4th.
9/10, they sent that out,
Okay.
the notice.
Let's see.
Judy reviews another document.
Well, this says that attempts were made on 9/21, 9/26, and 10/5. That's what it looks like, attempts made.
That's when they had attempted to deliver, but they did not pick it up.
So they had no notice.
They had notice.
No,
did
they
not
had
pick
no
up
notice.
They
They
didn't pick
had
it up.
no notice.
If they would have gone to their post office box, they would have had notice.
If I had taller parents, I would have been 5'7".
Heather grins.
They had no notice. Okay, $1,565. That's what you owe them. It was a malicious act.
Your Honor, this isn't just about the car.
This
There
is
are
all.
horrendous
Listen to me.
False
This is
allegations
all.
through CPS. If you would please.
Let me. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
And your counterclaim, I'm going to hear. Right now, you owe Mr. Brown $1,565 because what you did was malicious. And I don't understand something. You have one child together. I assume that you don't want to make her miserable. That when she was born, you said, oh, let's see what we can do over her lifetime to make her as unhappy as possible. Let's see what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre. So right now, because you did a malicious thing by having their car towed and not giving them a heads up that you had the car towed to a place that was going to cost them money, you owe them $1,565. Now I'm going to hear your claim that they made false charges to CPS about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Oh.
can I say something?
About what?
The car.
Before you say anything, did I say anything that was inaccurate? Did your father have the car towed? The answer is he's acknowledged that. He had the car towed and put it in a place where neither your mother or her boyfriend knew where it was, resulting in their having to pay fines to get the car out. Is there anything that I said was wrong?
That is partially incorrect because I had contacted my mother in the time and asked either.
Okay, that's that I'll hear. You contacted your mother.
I did contact my mother previously, not only on normal messages, but also on messenger messages, including how I wanted either the title or my money back and that they could have the car before that. Once the Facebook post was...
All I want you to show me is that you notified either your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded when you notified them.
She also did ask my best friend where it was.
All I want, that's all I want. Don't tell me what you said to your best friend who's not here. All I want to do is see where you notified your mother that the car was impounded.
So there is this one about money in my account, which was about the car.
I don't want to see anything about the car. I only want to see where you notified your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded.
Okay, I don't have the text about that, but I did notify her that it was impounded.
Well, I don't know that, and it seems to me you weren't talking to your mother on a regular basis because there was a lot of acrimony. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So, Tricia, you could sit down.
Tricia sits. Caption, coming up.
I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause.
Scott shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Curtis, Heather, and Scott.
Defendant Scott Manis has accused his ex-wife, Heather Palin, of filing a false report with Child Protective Services.
Now, it was a malicious act to have the car impounded. There's no question in my mind that if they knew it was impounded, they would have gotten it out before. $1,565. Now, you want to show me what information you have with regard to filing a false CPS report?
Correct. I have the CPS reports and the police investigators report.
Okay, may I see it, please?
Scott hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
This report, it was in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's been several years of these reports and
Just
disgusting allegations.
So you filed or you made allegations to Child Protective Services?
CPS actually contacted me, Your Honor, regarding several calls that they had received for the welfare of my daughter, Trisha.
In what year?
I was contacted, I believe it was 2019, and again in 2020.
They contacted you?
Correct.
For what?
To do an interview because of a claim that was made regarding Trisha's safety.
That were made by an anonymous source?
I don't know who made them, Your Honor. In Minnesota, you can't make multiple reports by one person. I cannot call day after day to make reports.
I'm just asking you, did you at some point claim that you had reason to believe that your daughter was being in some way physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, to a point.
Yeah, okay. And part of that involved a sexual abuse.
That one was not claimed by me. I did state to CPS that he does have her sleep in his bed with him.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Which is a little weird.
I have to tell you something. That doesn't seem a little weird. It seems a lot weird that your daughter acknowledged, sir.
Your Honor?
Your daughter. What I'm telling you is, it is inappropriate for a man to sleep in the same bed as his 15-year-old daughter.
Your Honor,
that's
we
my
went to a
view.
concert.
And if that's true, there may be a reasonable explanation for it. She said she was scared, whatever, but when interviewed, that's what it says in here. But I'm telling you, as a mother and a grandmother, in my view, and I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, but it is inappropriate for a teenager to sleep in the same bed with her father. Period.
Scott shakes his head.
Maybe some countries it's appropriate, but I...
Your Honor, we went to a concert.
What?
And shared a hotel room at a...
No, that's not what your daughter said. No. That's not what your daughter said, sir.
May I finish?
Yes.
When she was going through all the stuff with the divorce and everything, she came into my room. I was asleep. She laid next to me. I'm asleep.
Listen to me. I'm not suggesting
Your Honor,
that
there's
anything
nothing
inappropriate...
inappropriate.
Sir,
Absolutely right.
understand this. I'm not suggesting that any inappropriate actions happen between you and your daughter. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause. I would say, you know what? That's not a good idea. It's sweetheart, it's especially not a good idea when parents seem to be feuding. It's grist for the mill. You may want to go and, if she's scared, say, sweetheart, I'll go and sit in a chair in your room.
Many times.
In your room.
Many
but
times.
But please, this is inappropriate. Do you understand? It's inappropriate.
Did you read the detective's statements in there?
No, I'm not interested in the detective statements.
Obviously.
If what your daughter says is true as a result of the investigation, then there was reason for somebody to suggest to CPS to do an investigation. So listen, bottom line, I can't tell the two of you to stop feuding. I can't. You either hate each other more than you love your daughter. That's the answer. And this court can't fix that. All I can do is fix $1,565, which is what you owe them for impound fees. This case is over. Thank you.
Yeah. This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Scott then Heather.
I think the judge is wrong.
I am thankful for the judge.
She didn't read all the evidence. Multiple pages weren't read.
He's very good at manipulating others.
And multiple accusations.
And being the person that, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me.
False allegations to CPS.
My ex-husband decided that he would show me.
No, I was trying to get my daughter her money back or the title to her car.
He actually had the car as of August 24th. Then he brought her to the house and moved her out on September 4th. And that's when it just started going downhill.
She has a lot of hatred.
I believe he's very angry that I divorced him.
That she falls off a bridge.
And he lost the control over me that he had while we were married.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, Sarah, I've been doing these family cases for very, very, probably 40 plus years. And it always makes me sad that the mother, the father, even the new boyfriend, there is a window in life when you feel relatively healthy, nothing hurts you, you don't have a bad back, you don't have to worry about indigestion, you can walk around without a walker, you look pretty reasonable, and that you will take years away from that good time to create negativity around not only yourself, but the people that you love.
I think that's great advice.
I always said to people, both men and women, that, it's one journey. You can take that journey and put as much positive energy into it.
Yeah, I just felt bad for the daughter. I mean, I know she's grown now, 19, but still 19, it still hurts your feelings to hear and see that your parents hate each other more than they care and love about you.
Well, maybe that statement
will make a difference. You never
will
know.
make a difference, because I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
But when it's said to you in a court in front of your child, hopefully they take some action on it then.
Well, hopefully they'll say, boing, I mean, she has a new boyfriend, and he's got his daughter who's living with him. They should be happy.
Yeah.
And they're divorced.
Close the book and move on.
Close the book.
Yeah.
Her mother and her boyfriend should get a puppy together. Well, they should
Not
not
until
until
they
they
get
get married. Not until they. But do something. This is a grown young woman.
Have a healthy
She
adult relationship with your adult
grown
child.
Right. Not over a car. But teenagers do crazy things for a car. I think that some teenagers would live with Satan if they bought them a car.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute?
She keyed your car.
And she was threatening to beat me up. Her family came up there and they all had guns. That's a lie. We've had an ongoing beef for years.
And it's all over the prize.
This is Judy Justice.
Kiana Hill is suing her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, for vandalizing her car and harassment while working together.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Case 2141, Hill versus Horton.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Hill,
Yes, sir.
what's this man's name?
Cladis Brown.
You have a child with him
Yes, ma'am.
who's 10 years old.
Yes.
Is that your only child?
No, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 4 children.
Is he the oldest?
She is the oldest.
She's the oldest.
Yes.
Does she see her father?
No.
Hasn't seen him in how long?
Months to a year.
The defendant has 2 children with him.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
Well, he'll be 2 on the 9th, and then I have a 10-month-old.
And then, according to what I've read here in either the complaint or the answer, he has at least one other child,
Yes, ma'am.
which is how old?
Probably about
7.
7.
Does he see that child?
Every blue moon when she brings them.
So once in a while.
Yeah.
So he has 4 children altogether,
Yes, ma'am.
and you currently live with him.
Yes.
What does he do for a living?
He works at a warehouse,
And you?
but I'm a certified nurse assistant.
Who takes care of the kids?
Me and Claudius.
You work different shifts?
Yes, he works overnight. I work day shift.
So you're currently working?
Yes, ma'am.
But there came a time, I'm just trying to figure out why everybody's sort of mad and fighting over him. I don't understand it. There must be something that you ladies see that is hidden from me, because it is your claim, Miss Hill, that Miss Horton not only vandalized your car, but that she caused you to be fired from your job. She says that you filed a false restraining order against her, and that actually you caused her to lose her job, and it's all over the prize,
Judy points to Cladis.
which I can never really understand. How long have you been working in your current job?
About 3 months now.
So you got another job.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you like it?
Yes.
Making about the same money or more?
A little less.
And where are you working?
I'm a machine operator.
So you got another job.
Yes.
Because all this started when all of a sudden you found yourselves working at the same place.
Yes.
And in what month was that?
That was, I started the job May 31st, but it spilled over into June is when everything took place.
And how long were you working at the same place?
3 months. I started March 4th of 2022.
Okay, so it was a short-term employment for both of you. And you were there first.
Yes, ma'am.
And you came shortly thereafter,
Yes.
shortly after she started to work. Had you ever met each other?
No.
Well, explain to me what the problem was.
So there's a history that started back in 2019 via text messages and Facebook. So we've had an ongoing beef for years.
Who cares? Now you're going to both get smarter. You're going to come here today and you're going to both get smarter. And if he has 2 children that he doesn't see, her daughter and your 7-year-old, according to what I hear that you see once every blue moon, that's a basket that I wouldn't be in. So you have a history of bad texting back and forth and stuff. I don't care about that. Let's get to the 2 allegations of, 1, that she vandalized your tires. When and what proof do you have that she vandalized your tires? This is after you both found yourself in the same working environment.
It wasn't my tires. She actually keyed my vehicle.
Keyed it?
Yes.
On what date?
On June 18th. And I have my police report from that.
Okay, I'll look at the police report. Did you see her key your car?
I did not see her, but I requested video footage from the job, and they stated that they would give me the video footage.
Do we have it?
We don't have it, but the city attorney was unable to receive it as well. But I have a letter from the city attorney.
You don't have it here for me, and you didn't see her key your car?
Yes.
What we're here for is a trial, so I need what proof you have that she keyed your car. I assume your car was at work.
Yes.
When it was keyed, okay? And I'm assuming that you don't like each other, that things got nasty, heated on social media, back and forth. I'm assuming all that is true. All I need for you to show me is proof that she keyed your car.
Well, I have audio recording from HR where they're stating that everything was initiated by the defendant. And Arkansas is a one-party state, so I can play the audio for you.
Oh, was she on the audio?
They're talking about the video in the recording and that they were supposed to give it to me.
Can't help you. Okay, the next part of your case is that she caused you to lose your job.
Yes.
Go.
So I have my termination letter stating that the defendant...
I'd like to see a termination letter.
Kiana hands a document to Kevin.
It's a joke.
Diamond smirks. Kevin hands the document to Judy, who reviews it.
This is the description of the termination letter and description of the violation. Kiana has been involved in altercations with another employee. While the other employee instigated the situations, it has gotten to a point where multiple other staff are now involved. I don't know what that means. At this point, it is affecting patient care and causing a hostile work environment, termination effective immediately. I assume that you have a similar letter because you were terminated. May I see it?
Yes.
Diamond produces a document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
I also have a final warning.
Just a second.
Judy reviews the document.
Okay. On Wednesday, June 15th, 2022, Diamond, that's you.
Yes, ma'am.
Was given a final written notice concerning harassment of other employees. It has since been reported that the harassment has continued. Also, multiple other staff have been pulled into this situation to the point that it's affecting patient care, and it's a termination letter. Okay, so I'm assuming since you got this, you were notified previously about having any communication with each other. You were not.
I was out for COVID. I had just got back to work June 15th of 2022. And I found out that Hill was working there. I never knew she was working there at all. And so I got called to the office.
Caption coming up.
What was the beef about? I don't understand.
The other baby mama. It's the reason why we're into it.
His 7-year-old's mother?
Yes.
The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes. Yes.
And later today.
How much money in total did you pay Miss Goodwin for her work in planning your wedding?
I paid her $50.
Well, don't you think that's ridiculous?
A woman grins. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kiana and Diamond.
Kiana Hill claims her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, harassed her at work and caused her to be fired. Diamond is countersuing for filing a false restraining order.
My question was a relatively simple one, because I'm going to make this as simple as possible before I probably dismiss both of them. I would like to see, after June 15th, 2022, up until the date of the termination, which is June 23rd, 2022, how the harassment continued. I would like you to show me from June 15th.
The actual date was June 14th.
Well, this says June 15th.
I wasn't working.
Shh.
She
This violation.
To my friends as well. And we have the date timestamp.
I just want you to show me after June 15th, between June 15th and June 23rd,
yes, ma'am,
what further acts that you allege are acts of harassment occurred.
I have the schedule showing the date.
Shh.
Kiana hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Well, I don't know what this is.
A fake Facebook page that she made.
How do you know this is a fake Facebook page that she made?
That was a requested message that was sent to me after her and myself had a conversation, and she was threatening to beat me up. And it says, since you didn't apologize, D is going to beat you up.
Okay.
The D that they're referring to is Diamond.
Oh my God.
What is this?
The 870 number is her calling my phone.
Okay. And 870.
The missed calls.
This was on what date?
That was on June 19th.
What were you calling her for at 6 o'clock in the evening?
Well, the day she accused me of vandalizing her car is the day that we had worked together. She called the police and her family came up there and they all had guns. That's the reason she got terminated, because she brought a gun on the premises.
That's
and they
not what
came
my
up
letter
there
states.
to jump me.
That's a lie.
When I went outside,
I just want to ask you why you called her.
I called her to ask her because the June 16th is when I sat down. I had a conversation together to drop all beef. Like,
She
no
was
issue.
calling while she was
I don't
calling
want you.
me.
You want to say you can't control yourself. Understand, you're sending me a bad message. If you can't control yourself here, which is a very controlled setting, I'm going to say to myself, this is somebody who can't control themselves outside of the setting. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I called her to ask her why did she feel like I vandalized her vehicle, because before that we sat down and we had a conversation together at work saying it should be dead. Like, well, we should not have any beef, over him at all, and that the kids were involved. And so we agreed to let it go. So then she accused me of vandalizing her vehicle.
What was the beef about? I don't understand.
The other baby mama is the reason why we're into it.
The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes.
Yeah. The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes.
Judy furrows her brow at Diamond.
Yes. Yes.
Diamond and Clytus grin.
So we have no proof of vandalizing, and this is nonsense. You want to tell me about the restraining order that you filed?
There was an order of protection placed after she was harassing me at work.
May I see it?
Yes. But it was also rescinded.
By the way, does he pay child support for your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
He does. How much?
He pays probably about $239 every 2 weeks, somewhere around
Does he
there.
pay it to you?
Yes. Well, it's through child support.
But he pays it to you?
Yes.
And he's current?
Yes. Well, there's back pay, but he's currently paying.
Okay. So was there a hearing on this order of protection?
It was not.
There was
No,
not.
ma'am,
Did
there
you
was not a hearing.
Just a second. Did you appear?
No, I rescinded it.
I understand that. I just want to know the court found that the petition was dismissed.
It was a false accusation.
Okay. So the reason that the order states it was dismissed is that the petitioner doesn't meet the definition of family or household member as defined in whatever statute is, and therefore does not allege the existence of domestic abuse. Doesn't address the gravamen of the petition. It's a more procedural dismissal because she's not related to you in any way. I mean, having children with a person in common doesn't make you, at least in this jurisdiction, part of the household. Okay, you both look like nice ladies. You know, he has kids with 2 other people. Not a great track record.
He really don't see them because they don't let him. They don't want their kids around me.
There's a reason. You know, maybe not a great track record. It's not good for your children. It's really not good for your children. I mean, your children, believe it or not, your children are related to each other. I mean, you may not have any interest whatsoever, but when your children get older, they may have a curiosity about who their half-sibling is, what they look like, they alike. They may have interest. So all I can suggest to you is your children didn't ask to be born. The idea that you exert any energy whatsoever, negative energy with regard to each other, is ridiculous. Really ridiculous. But for him, you wouldn't have any contact with each other. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, why? He hasn't been in your life in years. And I know that he shouldn't have been in your life at least for the last 7 years because he's got a 7-year-old with somebody else, right? And you have a 10-year-old. Goodbye, except for your daughter. And
could I state that the situation is not about him. It's about the harassment, the lost wages. That's more of my concern with her. It has nothing to do with
I
him.
was working before you. I was working at a job. You came to my job.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is, right now, and I don't have to get into it any further, right now, she's got the guy.
I don't care.
Just a second. Right now, she's got the guy. So that would perhaps give rise to some animus on your part. With regard to her position, he's working and he's paying money to your child, which is, in her mind, taking money away from her 2 children that she has with him. Well, that's his responsibility. You knew about that child and you knew about the 7-year-old. So what I'm telling you is there's a lot of negative energy going on. You both got jobs relatively soon after this. It was probably not a good idea for you to stay in the same place. And your employer was absolutely right and actually quite brave in today's times to say, we're terminating both of you because your job is affecting patient care. Because it's not only the two of you, other employees have been drawn into this drama.
That's because she brought them in.
I don't know whether she brought them in or not, and I don't care whether she brought them in.
And later today,
she wasn't your best friend. She wasn't even a close friend. You hadn't spoken to her in years. So clearly you called her to do a job for you that was her profession. And in addition to doing that, she bought you your wedding dress.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kiana and Diamond.
Kiana Hill claims her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, harassed her at work and caused her to be fired. Diamond is countersuing for filing a false restraining order.
Now, of all the places that you have to work, you had to work in a place where she was working.
I didn't know she worked there.
And she didn't know that you were there.
She did on the first day that I started, and she told everyone who I was and what the situation was.
I was out for COVID.
Okay, who cares? Anyway, cases are dismissed. Goodbye, good luck.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Diamond and Clytus, then Kiana.
I feel like the judge, she made the right decision.
She didn't listen.
Because I'm with her baby's father, which is now my baby's father.
He had nothing to do with this situation.
I just want to be there for my kids.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, to his credit, he's paying support.
Sure. Has a job.
Has a job. And I don't know why these two women feud when, according to plaintiffs, she has no interest in him anymore.
And she's getting support.
She's getting support. I just don't understand. There are so many things that life has that present obstacles. Why fight over a guy?
There's many good causes you could get behind and fight for. Let's choose one of those.
Yeah, right.
Case number 2149, Goodwin versus Philpott. All parties, please step forward.
Manuelita Goodwin is suing wedding planner Kayla Philpott for repayment of items purchased for Kayla's wedding.
Miss Philpott, how long have you known Miss Goodwin?
Since I was a child. I don't remember much of her when I was a child, but she remembers me as a baby.
Well, I know what she remembers. You were getting married. When? What was the date of the wedding?
May 6, 2021.
Where was the wedding supposed to be held?
It was going to be held in Turlock.
Is that a wedding venue?
Yes.
How many people were coming?
It ended up being around 25 people. It was kind of small.
How many people did you invite?
60.
But 25 came.
Yeah.
It was during the height of COVID. Tell me, when you contacted Miss Goodwin, you contacted her because you knew she was a wedding planner, right?
Yes.
And when did you contact her?
I believe I contacted her in January.
And at the time you contacted her, had you made any wedding plans at all?
Very little.
Okay. During the course of your wedding planning, she said she would help you.
Yes.
Prior to January 2021, when you contacted her, when was the last time you saw her?
I can't even remember.
Well, was it in 2020?
No.
2019?
No.
So you hadn't seen her in at least 2 or 3 years?
Yes.
How many times in that 2 or 3 year period did you communicate with her by text or by phone?
Never.
So the reason that you called her in January of 2021 was to assist you with your wedding?
Yes.
And she did?
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
She said she laid out a whole bunch of money for you in planning your wedding and purchasing things for your wedding, and she wants to be reimbursed for that. So when you called and asked her to help plan your wedding, what did you ask her to do for you?
I asked her to help me because I really didn't have a sense of direction of what to do for a wedding. And I asked her if she would pay for a decoration. And then I told her that I was getting my tax return and that I'd pay her for the decoration. And we started with that.
Started with that.
Mm-hmm.
How much money in total did you pay Miss Goodwin for her work in planning your wedding?
I paid her $50.
Well, don't you think that's ridiculous? It is ridiculous, right? You called her and engaged her to be a wedding planner for your wedding. She wasn't your best friend. She wasn't even a close friend. You hadn't spoken to her or seen her in years. So clearly you called her to do a job for you that was her profession, her vocation. And in addition to doing that, she bought you your wedding dress.
Yes.
How much was your wedding dress?
I ended up, we got a few dresses. The first one didn't work out, and I believe that one was $200. And then
Who paid for that one?
she did.
So the first one didn't work out. That was $200.
Yes.
And it didn't work out. Why?
I didn't like the fit on it.
Didn't like it. Okay, but you bought it. Well, she bought it.
Yes.
And where is that dress now?
I gave it back, and we ended up returning it.
Okay, so you got your money back.
Yes.
Oh, great. Strike that out. And what about the next dress?
The next dress, it was from Amazon, and we didn't like the fit either, so we ended up returning that one. And that one was...
Who ordered that dress? You or the plaintiff?
I believe it was me.
Okay, and what did you finally end up with?
I ended up getting a dress from David's Bridal that I really liked.
How much was that?
I believe it was $500.
Who paid for that?
She did.
So far you've paid $50 for her services, and so far, at least what I know, just for one dress, it was $500. Don't you think you owe her compensation for her work?
Well, she told me that, you know, she was really, really generous. She was giving, like, I did a lot of stuff, and I believe that I don't owe her because she offered to do that.
It sounds stupid to you. Okay, I know it sounds stupid to you. How much did you lay out for her wedding? In the receipts that you have for me, how much did you lay out for her wedding?
$32,87.95.
And when you asked her to be reimbursed for that money, what did she tell you?
That she was going to pay some of it when she received her tax returns, actually her wife's tax returns, and also she was working overtime to pay me back. She also stated that she was going to be getting a judgment from a State Farm check that she would be making payments, and she did pay the $50 after she made a payment arrangement with me to pay $200 a month back. And she did make the first payment of $50, and from that point, she didn't make any additional payments. So we did work together, Your Honor, to try to sell the items that were at her sister's home. I requested both Kayla and her wife at the time to sell the items. They're sitting in her sister's garage in Stockton, where I do not live. I did come down for 2 weeks to try to help sell those items.
Were any of those items sold?
Yes.
Did you get any money back from
I
those?
did.
How much?
$106, and then I had to pay for shipping for those items.
How much did you pay for shipping?
$75. And the rest of the items are still in her sister's possession.
Okay, $32.26. How much did you pay for your wedding other than the plaintiff's participation?
$8,000.
Did you pay that?
My mom paid for the venue, and then I paid for the other things.
How much was the venue?
$4,000.
So you paid $4,000, you personally, and what about your wife?
Well, we share an account, so it was from both of us.
What about her $3,200? Just don't have it. Just didn't pay it. Okay, anything else, Ms. Goodwin?
No.
$32.26, judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Kayla then Manuelita.
She told me that a lot of the stuff was gifts.
I don't have any more wedding woes.
She did a great job with the wedding.
She thought it was a gift.
She's really, really gifted at that.
Never gonna loan money to her again.
Sarah and Judy.
That was a relatively easy case. I think even the defendant acknowledged, besides just relying on the goodwill of the plaintiff, she had no real excuse to not pay her back, and makes our job easy.
Some are easy, some are hard.
Yeah.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to Judy Justice.
There was this truck you had with your aunt.
I told her that I could pay it in monthly increments.
He was never able to go and transfer the title.
Because there was not one. I had an officer knock on my door, try to give me a grand theft auto charge.
When did it become uncivilized?
This is Judy Justice. Susie Canales is suing her nephew, Noah Tiarina, for the cost of a Toyota 4Runner.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge.
Thank you.
Case 2160, Canellas versus Tiarina.
Thank you.
Judy turns to Susie.
Ms. Canales, is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
And his name is Chris?
Yes.
Okay. This case is about a truck.
Toyota 4Runner, yes, ma'am.
That was titled in your name, about 21, 22 years old, but was in the possession of your son, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Chris went to jail.
Yes.
And your great-nephew moved into that house.
Yes, ma'am, correct.
And you moved into that house with your wife, girlfriend?
Fiance.
Fiance.
Yes,
when are you getting married?
so we're waiting on our second daughter in February, so after February.
Okay, well, that's not the way
We usually did it 100 years ago in the Stone Age, but I understand that that's the way a lot of people do it these days. Anyway, you moved on to the property. When you moved on to the property, in addition to some other things, there was this truck. When did you give your son the truck? In what year?
It's always been his truck, but I titled it over to him in 2021.
Okay, so you signed over a title to him.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not your truck anymore. So what are you doing here, suing for it?
He was never able to go and transfer the title or go and register it. So,
Because there was not one.
If you say that again, it won't be good for you. We don't shout out here. I run a very organized shop. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you acknowledge that it's always been his truck. Did you buy it new?
I bought it used for
When?
his graduation in 2005.
What's the value of it? Just
Between 3,000 to 5,000, but that's based on 100,000 miles and good condition. So.
Okay. Chris, stand up, please. On what date did you go to jail?
April 20th, 2022.
How long were you there?
Till July 11th.
What were you there for?
Drug charge?
Is that still pending?
No, ma'am.
When you were arrested or when you were incarcerated, was there an engine in this truck? Be very careful in your answer. Was the truck running?
Yes, ma'am.
How many miles did the truck have on it?
Roughly 220,000.
And you were in the house and you disposed of the truck.
Amongst other things, yes, ma'am.
All we're talking about here is the truck.
Okay.
On what date did you dispose of the truck?
In August, whenever me and Susie made a verbal agreement for me to have ownership of the truck because it was no longer running.
How did you dispose of it?
It was towed away to a junk shop and used for parts.
You have any paperwork?
I have paperwork for the towing.
Great, I'll see the picture and I'll see the towing receipt. That tells you that it wasn't working.
With the new mileage, about 1,900 to 4,000 would be the range. Again, for good condition.
Judy reviews a document.
Okay, and this is an invoice for $75, junk vehicle towed, no keys, no title, doesn't run, wrecked. Kevin, show this to Chris.
Kevin hands the document to Chris.
So that's what you're suing for. You're suing for the value of the truck because it's been junked, so you want $5,000. The truck, at best, if it were running, would be $1,900. According to this, it wasn't running. Now, Mr. Tarina?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to tell me the conversation you had with your aunt. Her son was now out of jail because if this happened in August, you got out of jail July 11th.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you go?
I went to my mother's house.
And that was before the truck was towed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Chris, did your cousin tell you that the truck wasn't running?
No, ma'am.
When did you find out that the truck wasn't running?
I was always assuming that it was running. I did attempt to contact him, and he told me to come pick up the truck. And I told him I was on my way. I believe it was on the July 15th. We have the text messages here.
I'd like to see them.
Chris hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews an image of a text message.
Okay, so this all sounds very civilized.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Chris, when did it become uncivilized?
It really never became uncivilized. We just, whenever I went to go get it that day, I think something happened and...
I'm not following you.
Okay.
We were all over the place. This all sounds very civilized. He's living in the house now. You were not.
Right.
Some of your stuff was still there.
Correct.
You know each other a long time. He said, some stuff I'll throw away. You said, okay, but the other stuff I've got in the house, come by and pick it up. Okay.
Yes.
At that time, he had to have told you that the truck was not running because he said the truck is at the exact same spot where you parked it.
Right. Well, I just assumed they didn't have the key because a lot of my belongings got thrown away.
Well, they didn't have the key because the tow people said that there was no key.
Right. That's just why I assumed the truck was still in the same spot.
Okay. Now you find out that the truck is not running, right? Because you went there to pick up some of your stuff. Come on.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and that was in July because you said you were coming over July 15th.
Yes, ma'am.
So you came to his house where your truck was sitting.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you find out about the truck?
The truck was still in the same spot and it wasn't running.
Same spot.
Same spot.
Did anybody prevent you from taking the truck when you came?
No, ma'am.
Then why didn't you take it?
Just simply for the key. I didn't have the key to turn it on.
Just a second. April, May, June, and July. So the car had not been touched in 4 months. That's what you're telling me, while you were incarcerated. And if you just said to me the car was in the same spot from the time you left now, and there was no key, so you had no idea whether the truck was running or not, right?
Well, I just assumed that it wasn't running because of the key, the no key.
If you were that interested, you would have found out. You would have called a mechanic, they would have come, they would have jump-started the truck, and somebody would have made you a new key. Then you could have taken the truck. He doesn't have to keep your truck on his property.
Well, first of all, my family member said that they were evicted. They had not been evicted.
What evicted? What does that have to do with the truck?
At the time, Your Honor, he, of course, was incarcerated.
No, he wasn't incarcerated. He wasn't incarcerated when you gave him the truck.
No, he was not.
No, I see, I have the dates here that you told me. He wasn't incarcerated. He wasn't incarcerated for a year, and he didn't transfer the title.
I asked my family member if I was able to go into the house and remove all his items and look for the key and the title so I can have the vehicle removed, and everything was thrown out of the house. So when he came to pick it up, it was gone the next day.
Noah grins. Caption coming up.
I have text messages right here saying that she doesn't like being lied to and she's gonna go the court route. I had an officer knock on my door at 8 o'clock in the morning and serve me papers, try to give me a grand theft auto charge and have a felony on my name.
Can I see the text message that she sent to you afterwards?
Later.
He says you didn't make any payments.
I never said I was gonna pay him that back.
Well, you told me that you asked him if you could borrow some money. That's what you said.
A couple times I asked to borrow money, but the entirety of that, all that, like, I didn't say I was gonna pay that back. And he should know he was just being nice.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Susie, Chris, and Noah.
Susie Canales claims her nephew, Noah Tiarina, owes for the cost of a Toyota 4Runner.
What I'm telling you is he was not prevented from taking the truck the day that he came, which was mid-July. He didn't dispose of the truck until August. That's what this receipt says. I think. No. This invoice was prepared 2 days ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this doesn't say when they took the truck. How did you get this invoice 2 days ago? It was from August.
I got the invoice because I needed it for evidence, and the towing company that sent me that invoice gave me the incorrect day because they sent it to me on the day that they sent me the receipt.
Doesn't say the date it was towed. Junk vehicle towed. You have any email communication or text communication immediately after the vehicle was towed or before?
With her?
Yes.
I called her the day that it was towed because I have respect for my family member. And I said, I'm towing the truck. It needs to get off of my property today. And she said, Mijo, I feel like I should be compensated for the truck. How much do you want for the truck? She said she wanted $500. I told her that I could pay it in monthly increments.
Why would you want to buy a truck that was worthless?
Because I have respect for my family and I hold family very close to me. And if she says that something's not right, I'm gonna make it right. And that's what I tried to do. I failed on that first month of I was supposed to give her $100. I did not pay the first $100. I have text messages right here saying that she doesn't like being lied to and she's gonna go the court route. I had an officer knock on my door at 8 o'clock in the morning and serve me papers, try to give me a grand theft auto charge and have a felony on my name.
Okay. Can I see the text message that she sent to you afterwards?
Noah hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
Did you recall, Ms. Canales, having a conversation with your nephew about $500 for the truck?
No, ma'am, I do not.
My witness does.
Shh. How was he supposed to pick up the truck when he just got out of jail the day before you had it towed? And I asked for permission to look for the keys and title, but everything was moved out of the garage. At that time, I was taking my mother to the hospital. But it's okay, I just got to go through the court process. Regardless, you're going to get your money, Aunt Susie. So it's clear that you had a discussion with him about money because he says to you in response to his statement, so I don't see anything here about $500, but he says, I'm going to get you your money. Mm-hmm. Well, you didn't say to him, what money are you talking about?
I just told him I was done.
No, you said, I'm tired of the back and forth, which leads me to believe that that's exactly what happened. Do you have any other documentation of this communication that you had with her? I mean, it's a useless piece of junk of a car anyway.
The only thing I have is a letter of me mailing her the money order. That letter that I mailed her, I have no idea where it is.
Well, I don't know where it is either, but that's a self-serving document. I don't care. But you acknowledge that you told her that you would pay her $500 for the car. She's the registered owner. Is that correct?
Correct.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. I believe you.
Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
Chris.
He knows he did us wrong, and he knows he's lying right now. This is the only reason why he's acting like that, and that's why the reason my mom is so upset.
It's sad that it had to end that way for a family member because family is something that I hold very close to my heart, and I don't like to see it in that way.
He had free run of all of my belongings, and he ended up selling it.
But at the end of the day, it's my livelihood and my fiance's little livelihood that's at stake.
He knows what he did.
I did not take advantage of my own family. Never.
Yeah, it's tore us up a little bit.
It can't be put back together.
Judy and Sarah.
Troublesome. Tell you some of the troublesome things that I didn't even want to go into with them. He went to jail in April. Mm-hmm. His mother knew where the car was. She could have gone to get the car. She had 4 months.
Yeah.
Her son went to the house when he got out of jail in July.
And all he had to do was do the same thing the defendant had to do, call a tow truck, have it towed to your house.
Right.
Get an extra key made.
Right. And I thought that he was actually a pretty good nephew.
Yeah, I did too. He didn't have to pay for the car, but he felt for his aunt and the situation that she was in. And
well, he was just trying to be respectful and
yes.
probably keep the peace.
Exactly.
Between everybody. Well, again, no good deed goes unpunished.
I was just about to say that.
Case 2123, Valenzuela versus Jenkins. All parties, please step forward.
Javon Valenzuela claims his former friend, Darian Jenkins, owes for unpaid loans and bail money from a false arrest.
Mr. Valenzuela, it is your claim that the defendant, who is a friend of yours, owes you for some small loans that you made to him.
Yes.
And then it is your claim that he had you falsely arrested.
Yes.
And you want damages for that. You've known him for a while, according to your complaint. You knew him, you were friendly with him, and then he moved out of state and then moved back. Where did you move to, sir?
To Colorado.
And you moved to Colorado from where?
From Texas.
And in Texas is where you knew the plaintiff?
Yes.
In what year did you move to Colorado?
2019.
And in what year did you move back to Texas?
This year, 2022.
And why did you move back?
Why did I move back?
You moved to Colorado for what?
My family was up there, yeah. And then my family went back to Texas.
Oh, so you moved with your family?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Did you live with your family in Colorado?
No, we didn't all live together, no.
The reason you say you came back to Texas was because your family came back?
Yeah.
Did you have a job?
Yes, I did.
Where?
I worked from home.
What kind of work?
For a newspaper.
In Colorado?
Yes.
What did you do in Texas?
Whenever I moved back, I was still working from home, but they let me go. I got laid off.
When did you get laid off?
I would say June.
June of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
And what month did you move back to Texas?
Oh, I had already moved back in May.
When you moved back in May, where did you go to live?
I was living in hotels.
But there came a point when you had no money.
It got to a point.
When did it get to a point when you had no money?
Maybe July.
And when did you contact Mr. Valenzuela?
I'd say July.
You didn't contact him in May when you came back?
I just want to say that's a lie.
When did you contact him?
I mean, we talked while I lived in Colorado. You know, we always text each other, so.
Well, when you contacted him in July, what did you say to him?
I couldn't say exactly what I said, but.
Give me the gist of it.
Let me borrow some money, I guess.
Okay. And you needed it for living?
Right.
And what did he say to you?
He did, sometimes, if I asked him.
Okay. And how much did he give you?
Here and there, maybe 100, maybe 2 every.
No, altogether.
Altogether? Oh, I couldn't say how much altogether.
You couldn't say?
I couldn't say, maybe a few hundred.
Did he give you money for housing?
A couple times he did.
How much?
100 here, 100
Do you have
there.
a record of how much you gave him, sir?
I do.
Okay, because he's already said, and would you read that back to me, Whitney, please, about borrowing?
Said, let me borrow some money.
Right, okay, let me borrow some money. So tell me how much money you let him borrow.
$1,200.
Show me.
Javon produces documents.
Okay, now tell me what that is that you're giving him, all those papers that you expect me to read.
These are screenshots of every time I sent him money.
Oh, can I see it, please? Okay, get ready, Sarah Rose.
Caption, coming up.
Anybody who came could see that your lip was bloody. You say he fell, must have fallen outside. You don't know how that happened. But if you both are alleging that there was a fight, police would look at you and say, well, he's injured. They wouldn't have arrested you unless you had a warrant, right?
Siobhan shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Siobhan and Darian.
Javon Valenzuela is suing his former friend, Darian Jenkins, for unpaid loans and damages from an assault.
So every time you gave him money...
He agreed to pay me back.
No, he's already told me that he called you and asked if he could borrow some money, and you said yes, and he said, I don't know how much it was. So if he doesn't know how much it was, you have screenshots of it, and Sarah is going to add them all up. Okay.
Judy hands documents to Sarah.
Of all the money that you said that you borrowed from him, how much did you pay back?
120.
Good guess. Did he give you back $120?
No.
Did he give you back anything?
No.
Nothing ever?
No.
Okay. So while Sarah is adding that up, there came a point when you left the hotel. Is that right?
Yes.
And Mr. Valenzuela probably got tired of giving you money and said that you could stay in a spare room in his house.
For the most part, yes.
And you moved in August of 2022, the end of August.
Yes.
And then in September, you had a fight. I don't care what the fight was about. It became physical?
He was physical, yes.
No, I wasn't, Your Honor. No, I wasn't.
Let's say you had an argument that spilled out into the street, because this becomes very important, because there's the other charge is false arrest. And it was a false arrest, you claim, based on his statement to the police that you assaulted him.
Right.
Right. He says, yes, you had an argument, but you weren't arrested on his allegation that you assaulted him, but you were arrested and held on an outstanding warrant. When the police responded, they found that there was an outstanding warrant. So now I want you to tell me, in September of 2022, did you have an outstanding warrant? That's either a yes or a no.
Well, it was on a payment plan.
I don't care what it was. Did you have an outstanding warrant?
Yes.
And the outstanding warrant was for a what?
Traffic tickets.
What kind of traffic ticket?
I think I was speeding, and I didn't have my license either.
So speeding, driving without a license. What else? You have insurance?
I think it was insurance.
Not think. Speeding, driving without a license, and no insurance.
And no tags.
And no tags. And for that, you got fined.
Yes.
And you didn't pay the fine.
I was paying it.
Well, there wasn't a warrant outstanding because you were cooperating and paying the fines.
The county that I'm in, they said, the police officer said, it doesn't matter if you're on a payment plan. They'll arrest you if they want to.
Mr. Valenzuela, did you miss payments on your fine?
Yes.
Perfect. And so when the police responded to this kerfuffle that was out in the street, when they ran both your names, your name came up with an active warrant.
Yes.
Well, that's easy. So that you were arrested on the outstanding warrant.
I would have never been arrested, though, if he wouldn't have acted.
If he didn't call the police.
No, he didn't call the police.
Who did?
My neighbor did, because the way he was acting.
So your neighbor called the police, but for the outstanding warrant, I don't know whether the police would have taken you into custody. You had an injured lip. They could see that your lip was bloody. You say he fell, must have fallen outside. You don't know how that happened. It's really not relevant to this case. But if I were the police and I showed up, you didn't have any visible injuries, right? No, you had a busted lip. If you both are alleging that there was a fight, police would look at you and say, well, he's injured. He's got a busted lip, got to sew it up. They wouldn't have arrested you unless you had a warrant, right?
Right.
Good. So that's not his fault that you had a warrant. It's not his fault.
I have that total. It's $2,727.56, and that's including some direct payments to Motel 6s and other housing accommodations.
Includes that?
Yes, in addition to direct payments to the defendant.
Great. He says you didn't make any payments. 2727.
I mean, there's no way he expected me to pay. I never said I was going to pay him that back.
Well, you told me that you asked him if you could borrow some money. That's
A
what you
couple
said.
times I asked to borrow money, but the entirety of that, all that, like I didn't say I was going to pay that back, and he should know. He was just being nice. He
was being
And
nice.
Sometimes he offered.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
You have a job now?
Yes.
Okay, great. 27-27. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Darian.
I think he was just mad overall, so he just picked something to get me back with.
Just like he said, he thought I was being nice. Why would you say you're gonna pay me back, but then not pay me back?
He was screaming, yeah, he was screaming, just screaming, cussing, like, embarrassing.
He was acting crazy, and because he was acting crazy, he woke up the whole neighborhood.
Well, he was drunk, going crazy outside, running around the apartment complex, so she called the cops on him.
That's what made my neighbor call the cops, and that's why they came.
Oh, no, there's no friendship. It's gone. Yeah.
Don't have friends like that, but also don't bite the hand that feeds you. That thing comes good out of it, so.
Sarah.
Just something funny from the receipts that I was looking at. Some of them say, you know, the price really big on Venmo or Cash App, and then it just says completed at the bottom. On some of them, though, you could see heart emojis that the defendant sent thanking him, basically acknowledging that he received the money payment, sent a red heart emoji, and some of them were at very odd hours of the night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, some direct to Motel 6, some direct to other housing accommodations.
It's so interesting.
But I liked the receipts. I liked the
I never
paper trail.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
made it easy.
It's true. And because when people say I gave him cash, and
even with an ATM slip, you never really know if the cash transferred hands
but this actually makes our job much easier.
Yes, it does.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He was going to be our third roommate.
He helped out with the rent. Then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie someplace else.
This is Judy Justice. Jaleel is suing his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, for rent and the cost of 2 cats.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Case 2170, Jaleel versus Calderon Nepomuceno.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, my goodness.
Judy turns to Katie.
Calderon.
Hello.
What's your first name?
Amante.
Amante?
Yeah.
Good. It's much easier than your last name for me to pronounce. Mr. Jaleel, this roughly is what the case is about. You and Miss Calderon were in a relationship for a period of time. You decided to take an apartment. You were both on the lease. So far, correct?
Correct.
Your arrangement with Miss Calderon, which seems to be consistent in both your complaint and your answer, is that you had a much better paying job. She was going to provide the food and some other stuff for the house, and you were going to be covering the rent when you lived together, which you did.
Correct.
There came a time when Amante, who was a friend of yours, came to live with you. According to you, he was going to help out with the rent.
Correct.
He came, he lived with you, he helped out with the rent for maybe a period of time, and then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Now they're a couple. When you were no longer a couple with Miss Calderon, she stayed in the apartment for a period of time, but then they both left.
Correct.
And you're suing both of them for rent and for the return of 2 cats that they took when they left. You claim the cats are yours.
That's correct.
That's what the case is about. And some cat expenses in the event that I let them keep the cat. Cats, 2 cats. So when did you and Miss Calderon sign a lease together?
We signed the lease together at the end of July with the landlord present.
July of 2022?
July of 2021. Correct.
And it was for a year?
Correct.
And you had a job working for whom, sir?
I worked for a company called Steris.
What do they do?
They provide medical equipment to hospitals all over the world.
How long have you been working for them?
I'm going to have 8 years under my belt this year.
And when you moved into the apartment in July of 2021, what kind of work was Miss Calderon doing?
At the time, she was working at an animal hotel.
It was a pet daycare boarding facility.
Okay. Were you an hourly employee?
I was an hourly employee.
And I am correct that when you moved in July, your arrangement was that you were going to pay the rent.
That was
the arrangement.
Correct.
When did Armante come to live with you?
About August to...
That's
correct.
Shh.
He...
Judy glares at Katie.
Amante was going to be our third roommate.
You mean 1, 2, 3?
Correct.
Well, you're not roommates, really. You and the defendant, Miss Calderon, were not roommates. You shared a room.
We shared a room
And Armante was going to live where?
in another room.
And what was your arrangement with Armante with regard to paying rent?
We would split the rent 3 ways.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And how much was your share of the rent?
I would say approximately $927.
How long did you live there?
I was there when they signed the lease. I watched it all happen when they signed the lease. I came in, they signed everything.
Well, you didn't sign the lease.
I did not.
But you were there from the beginning?
Yes.
And it was your agreement with the plaintiff that you would pay 1/3 of the rent?
Yes.
Great.
We asked the landlord
Okay, so, hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie-coochie someplace else. So you agreed with the plaintiff that despite the fact that you were not on the lease, you were going to assume the responsibility of 1/3 of the rent, $927.
Yes.
So you moved in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. You left in April?
Yeah.
So you were there for 9 months?
Yes.
Did you pay rent for the 9 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
He paid rent for about the 7.5 months.
Okay. And then you left?
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I decided to leave because he decided to go to another place he was offered.
What do you mean he decided to go to another place that was...
got a place from his grandparents in another city. So I couldn't hold down the rent with her, so I decided to leave to save money and go back to my parents' house.
Now, Mr. Jalil, you see, you don't make up a story like that, like he just told me. A lot of that has the ring of truth to it. Where are you living now?
My grandparents' house in an in-law unit.
So when did you tell them that you were going to a different place?
In March.
When did you leave?
I left in July.
Did you let him know that you were staying until the end of the lease?
I
what?
I discussed with them that I would be leaving, but I would stick around to help them find either a different location or even suggesting that we all went back to our respected families just to, call it.
Mr. Jalil, this isn't working for you. I have to tell you something, sir. This case is not working for you at all. And it's only because Mr. Ramonte is very direct with me that you're suing them for $10,000. Where does that come from in your mind? Your agreement with her was you were going to pay the rent. You were never out of pocket. Your agreement was you were going to pay the rent. He paid his rent when he was there. He paid his 1/3. You then told them you were leaving. That's a whole different story than what you wrote in your complaint, Mr. Giulio. Do you understand?
Correct.
It's a whole different story. So, at best, Armante would owe you for 3 months' rent if they just left. But you told them that you were leaving. Now, when did you find out that they were a couple?
I found out at the end of April.
Were you all living together?
Yes.
So you just had 2 months left to the lease. So he was paying you, he paid you in March, you had May, June, you signed the lease in July, so it was over at the end of June, June 30th.
It would have been over at the end of July, Your Honor.
Well, she doesn't owe you any money for rent. At most, he owes you 2 months' rent. Tell me why you left.
My job doesn't pay that well, so I decided to go back to my parents' house.
When you took this apartment, this expensive apartment that was almost $3,000 a month rent, had you had a discussion with Armante about moving in with you before?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jalil, I'm reading your complaint because something wasn't registering right with me. You say you moved into the apartment together in August of 2021. Then you go through a whole bunch of stuff about a cat and then another adopted cat. You said in October we adopted a second cat. Around this same time, a third roommate moved in to shoulder some of the rent. Well, that's not true. He moved in right at the beginning.
And that was...
That was what?
That was...
a mistake.
That was a mistake.
Okay. But Armante acknowledges that he agreed right at the beginning. He volunteered the fact that he was there at the lease signing because it was agreed at the lease signing that he was going to pay a third of the rent. So, sir, you owe him rent as long as you show me that you've paid the rent. You moved out in July,
Yes.
and you paid your rent through July, or were you evicted?
No, I paid my rent in July.
Through July?
Yes.
Okay. 1854. Amante, you owe him $1,854. That's for 2 months' rent. Got it?
Okay.
I'm not subtracting anything because you stole his girlfriend.
That's fair.
Caption coming up.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case?
Either the return of both cats or $5,000.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil.
And later today,
There were restrictions put on the space.
No.
You have to pay attention.
Okay.
Sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kamar, Katie, and Amante.
Kamar Jalil claims his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, are wrongfully keeping his cats and owe him rent money.
Now let's deal with the issue with the cats. She doesn't owe you any rent. That was not your agreement with her. You moved out in July, August, September, October, November, December. 5 months ago, she's had both cats, right?
Correct.
She says they're her cats. When did you first file a small claims case?
September of 2022.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case? Be careful.
I was requesting either the return of both cats or $5,000, which was the accumulated expense of not just the cats, but also the expenses of her dogs as well. So any animal expenses for the time.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil. When the cats were either registered or went to the vet, whose name is on the sheet as owner?
I believe it was Miss Calderon.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And she owns the cats, and she's had them for the last 5 months. I suggest that you go and adopt 2 more if you want some more cats. Do you understand?
Yes.
You were living together as a couple. However, your friend Amante has to pay you for the couple of months' rent that he didn't because he says, not you, he volunteered that that was your agreement from the very beginning. So he owes you $1,854. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think he's just kind of butthurt that I moved on.
At least now I can put everything behind me and say that I did try.
I didn't think it would escalate this far.
All you can do in a situation like this is just you learn from it and you move on.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
This is what it is. It's life.
Judy.
I find fascinating, Sarah, that people will write and or be assisted in writing a complaint and an answer, but they read it over. This man is an intelligent man. He has a serious job for 8 years. First of all, he was suing for $10,000. Come up with that money. $5,000 for the cat's expenses, ridiculous. But his complaint had really nothing to, even the timeline.
As your clerk, I know that is a pet peeve of yours when
I don't understand
they
it.
don't
You know,
match up.
if you're going to tell a lie,
at least tell a consistent lie.
Right.
I think the right thing happened. I think the defendant friend admitted himself that he owed the rent, and that was great, even though he probably should have just kept his mouth shut.
And not said, I was there when the lease was signed. This was always our agreement.
Yeah.
I was going to be the
But
third
he was
roommate.
honest, which we always appreciate, and so I think the right thing.
So
I think he needs to, like you say, put a period, move on.
Move on. Anyway, all happy, and they look happy. They couldn't keep their hands off each other.
Case number 2172, Foster Gardner versus Menzel. All parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Menzel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster.
Right here.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building.
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from that space, which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay, give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space.
Yes.
You decided to go into some sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events.
Yes, ma'am.
Social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to you, you gave her $6,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of front money to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, etc.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
okay,
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
Okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want your $6,000 back.
Yes, ma'am. And
that's what it's about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that. When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met living at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
Jamar hands the document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So in your hands.
Shh. What's?
That's the studio that she runs.
Sarah, you have to sort of explain it because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things, but I know you can sign things by DocuSign now. Your signature isn't on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And
that looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
Okay. Is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes, after.
Just a second. Okay. You prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then you have a binding contract. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed if there's any material question, since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000. I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says, this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes. So signed the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, et cetera.
That is...
Now that happened, according to you, because you do not own that space, you rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no.
Caption, coming up.
Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jamar, Sean, and Livin.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their event. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording session.
Okay, there was a party that got out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay, and it was after that that you told your two partners that
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. Pop, that's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said, okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules. Did you know that this was rented space?
We didn't have all of the details about the place.
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all of these things, before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party, but that wasn't with you?
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was a part of the event.
Is that correct, that
No.
it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And
I don't care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No,
Hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on. They can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
My landlord contacted me that the neighbors were complaining. People were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 they get back.
Okay.
Easy? That's a contract case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you very
This court
much.
is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
Sarah,
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security. There was notes about no alcohol, food and drink will be provided. So I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water. So to be cautious, she was letting them know, hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people. It makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event. So
I see your point now that you put it that way. I
maybe,
just think if you were going to make them whole, they
they
should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your
Point of
opinion
view. Sure.
and perspective.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.com.
You work taking care of his mother.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did she get paid?
No one had their paperwork taken care of yet.
He stated out of his mouth he would pay out of pocket.
No, Your Honor.
You think that she should work for free? You can either make it easy or make it hard.
This is Judy Justice. Tracy Gallen is suing her client, Ronald Webster, for unpaid wages while working as a homemaid.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Kevin?
Good. Case 2168, Gallen versus Webster.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judge Judy turns to Tracy.
Miss Gallen, you are a home health aide.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to any particular school or have any training to be a home health aide?
Well, I went to CNA nursing school, so I'm
CNA? What is that?
certified nursing assistant.
And you've been doing that for over a decade?
Correct.
Do you need any license in the state where you're from in order to be a CNA?
CNA, yes. Caregiver, no.
But you have a license from CNA?
Yes, ma'am, and also have a license for a medical assistant.
Now, there came a time when you answered some sort of an ad by Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster had a mother who was ill and needed some assistance in caring for her. Are you a working man, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a caterer and a DJ, and also a driver.
Do you get any salary from any of those jobs?
It ranges from job to job.
Usually, how much?
For DJing, a couple hundred.
Couple hundred for how many hours?
It's basically by the job, the location, things of that nature. So it can vary.
Caterer.
Catering, we're building a family business, so basically getting started with it. Probably made as much as $1,800 before for a catering event. So again, it was brand new prior to the pandemic.
Okay, and what's your steadiest source of income?
Driving as of now.
How much do you make approximately an hour driving?
Now, probably $22 with the subtractions for
$22 an hour.
Yes.
Is that with or without your tips?
That's with tips.
Did you always live with your mother?
I lived with her for quite some time.
Say within the last 10 years.
Within the last 10 years, I moved out 3.5 years ago. Due to illness, I was staying with her, so I was not really able to work. During that time, I went to school to become a caterer, cook, etc., culinary school, business school, because I did have aspirations to open a restaurant eventually, or a catering business eventually.
So you didn't live with your mother for the last 3.5 years?
No, Your Honor.
What kind of illness did she have?
My mother was diagnosed initially with COPD. I forgot exactly what those words are, but it's a pulmonary, it's with her
I know
breathing.
it's COPD, it's a pulmonary disease.
You're better than me. Then there's also emphysema, along with some other things that I was not made aware of until she passed away.
How old was she?
68 years old.
A kid?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long was she bedridden? From when to when?
November 23rd until her death date of April 30th.
So all the time that the plaintiff took care of her, she was bedridden?
Yes, Your Honor.
And was your mother pretty strong-willed?
Yes, very much so, Your Honor.
And the COPD and emphysema was in all probability, at least in part, if not in all, attributed to her smoking.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, according to your complaint, Ms. Gallion, you worked for Mr. Webster in taking care of his mother, with whom he didn't live. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did anyone else live with her?
My son lived with her.
How old is he?
He's 29 years old now.
What does he do?
He was working at the time for Tesla.
He was, but he's no longer.
No longer.
But at this time, he was working for Tesla?
He was working for Tesla.
The whole time?
Yes, Your Honor. The whole time
right?
from being released from the hospital up until her death day, yes, Your Honor.
Now, the house belonged to your mother?
Via rent, but yes, Your Honor.
She rented it?
Yes, Your Honor.
She was a rentor?
Yes, Your Honor.
So her grandson just stayed there with her?
Yes, Your Honor.
So he slept there, and you were supposed to come during the day?
Yes, Your Honor.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Saturday.
Okay. Now, do you have the ad that you got from the defendant?
I do.
May I see it, Kevin, please?
Kevin collects a document from Tracy, then brings it to Judy, who reviews it.
Thank you.
I also have the messages, Your Honor, from that ad.
Let me just read this. Okay, so you were asking for somebody good to take care of your mother because she was a great caretaker all of her life.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very nice.
All of my life.
All of your life.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in it, he says IHSS for now. Would you explain what that is?
It's in-home supportive services.
From the federal government or the state?
From the state, if I'm not mistaken.
And you are from the state of?
California.
Well, this is what he wrote. So when you spoke to him with the same parameters of your employment as contained in his ad, that you would be working for IHSS for now, maybe more in the future. I don't know what that means. I assume it means that if it works out, you'd be paying her in addition to what she was making with IHSS.
No, Your Honor, I don't.
What does it mean? IHSS for now.
Yes.
Maybe more. What does that maybe more mean?
I honestly can't recollect what that meant. I am aware that I did send that text message or that Facebook post.
Is there anything in any of the text messages you have that indicates what maybe more is?
Yeah, just verbally, he stated out of his mouth that anything extra, him and his son would pay out of pocket.
Okay, extra like what?
Extra hours, if the hours that I agreed to work to, if it needed to be extended, my traveling time, my toll from where I was driving from, he was supposed to
reimburse you.
Yes,
for.
ma'am.
Is that correct, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Now, you started working when?
February 24th was my first day.
From February 24th until April what?
23rd.
And that was 6 days a week?
It varied because depending on my schedule, so every other week I would work Monday through Friday, and then the additional weeks I'll work Monday through Saturday.
So it's between 5 and 6 days a week. And how many hours a day were you working?
5.
So when you came into work, was the grandson still there?
Sometimes he was, sometimes he wasn't.
And if he wasn't, Miss Webster was alone?
Correct.
And when you left, was she alone?
Yes, ma'am.
And then hopefully the son came back to assist her at night.
From my understanding, there was another caregiver that was supposed to be there at nighttime, which I never saw, so I'm not sure.
Did you have another caregiver there at night?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who was that?
Her name was...
How long was she there?
You mean her work time or her duration of employment?
Duration of employment.
The same time that Tracy started.
Did she get paid?
I'm not aware of
Just a second. Did you fill out papers for...
Your Honor...
That says it...
No.
If you didn't fill out papers for her, then either she was working for nothing or she got paid from you directly. Before you answer me, you had a nighttime person who was hired at the same time the plaintiff was. Either she was paid from an agency, or she was paid from you, or she did it gratuitously. What was it?
Caption, coming up.
Had your son ever applied to be caregiver for your mother? Think carefully before you answer that question, because this one knows all. Had your son ever applied to be your mother's caregiver?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Oh, makes it so easy.
Whitney grins. The courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Tracy and Ronald.
Tracy Gallen claims her client, Ronald Webster, owes for unpaid wages.
Now, the agency, was she paid from an agency?
Yes.
Don't say yes if she was not. If she was not paid by the agency because she didn't get paid, then say she never got any money from the agency. And if you never filled out any paperwork, she couldn't have gotten paid by the agency.
Correct.
Well, why don't you just...
Let me rephrase that, because this is where the trepidation comes along. Neither of the caregivers were properly inputted into in-home supportive care system. So there's an allotment that is allowed where caregivers can work in hopes of having a large lump sum payment once they get their paperwork, background check, and everything else taken care of. So up until the 29th, no one had gotten paid because no one had their paperwork taken care of yet. So it's on the 29th when that starts to come about. So I personally never signed any paperwork for neither of the caregivers.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's what he's saying. Okay. So he signed no paperwork. And she worked for you from February to March, March to April, for 2 months. How much did you pay her in the 2 months that she worked there?
Out of my pocket, I paid her $110 with a caveat. It was the first time that she worked on a Saturday. I asked her to do so because I had...
Just tell me how much you paid her.
$110.
Anything else?
Because I had a calendar DJing event. I was not fielding anything up until that point.
Mr. Webster.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
You seem like a nice man. It's going to cost you money. You can either make it easy or make it hard. From February to April, did your son work?
Yes, Your Honor. He worked at Tesla.
Then I'm not finished with you with that. Your son worked for Tesla. I assume Tesla paid him.
I'm assuming he got paid too, Your Honor.
And when you worked as a caterer, I assume you got paid.
I was not working as a caterer during that time, Your Honor.
Were you working as a driver during that time?
I did work as a driver during that time, Your Honor.
Did you get paid?
Yes, Your Honor.
Prior to the plaintiff getting hired and this other woman, had your son ever applied to be caregiver for your mother? Think carefully before you answer that question. Think very carefully, because this one knows all. Had your son ever applied to be your mother's caregiver?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Oh, makes it so easy.
Whitney grins.
And when did he apply to be your mother's caregiver?
According to the information I have, which I was just made aware of.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's a lot of... Your son is in your mother's house.
Yes.
You're there all the time because you're interested in your mother. You are the next of kin. You have to sign off. Did your son sign up to be your mother's caregiver, and when? Give me the month, day, and year that he signed up.
According to the paperwork I have, I'd have to look at it because I don't...
Look at it. You can look at it, digest it. Give me the date.
Ronald consults a document.
See, Sarah, it's what's on paper doesn't always make sense, right?
Yeah.
You know?
You figure it out along the way.
Follow the money.
Yeah, always.
Always got to follow the money.
Leads you right to where you want to be.
Let's go.
According to the paperwork I have here, his paperwork was started on August of 2021.
When was it signed?
It does not state that.
And she started working in February. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So between August and February, Mr. Webster, who took care of your mother?
My son lived with her. He's, according to this, I was not privy to this information before.
Let me understand something.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is not a House Select Committee investigation, sir. This is just a court where I'm trying to figure out who took care of your mother, who was unable to take care of herself from August until February when you got another caregiver, and whether that person was signed up to get in-home health benefits. So the answer is, partially I know that your son, who lives with her rent-free...
No. I'm sorry, not with my mother, not rent-free.
Lives with her.
Yes.
Maybe not, then maybe Kevin and I are paying the rent. You never can tell. I don't know how much, and I can't ask you how much money your son made between August and February, but maybe she got a little too difficult for him to deal with, because at the end stages of being sick that way, you require a lot more help than you want your grandson to take care of. And so you needed somebody else. Now, I've just about, Mr. Webster, reached the end of creating the picture in this case, but the plaintiff was there, and so far you've given her $100 in 2 months. You got paid during that time period. Your son, who worked for Tesla, got paid during that time period. You can bet your bottom booty that I got paid during that period because I worked. Nobody said to me, well, you didn't get your form in right there. We're not paying you. Well, you're not paying me. You can find me today getting my pedicure. She stayed, even though she didn't get paid. Now, if she didn't work for you, Could you or your son have gone out to do their other work? Or would you have left your mother alone? What would you have done?
Possibly made other arrangements, Your Honor.
Possibly.
Possibly.
You mean get another sucker to work for free? You think that she should work for free? You think that she should work for free?
No, Your Honor, but I don't think she should smoke cigarettes with my mother alone.
Listen, you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is stupid.
Okay.
Your counterclaim is stupid. You just told me before your mother is the kind of woman that would do exactly what she wants to do. And what you think yourself, since you're not there and off doing your thing, somebody who's terminally ill, not getting better. You knew that, right?
I did know that.
You did know that. And if your mother chose an easier way to go than the one you selected for her, that would have been her prerogative. That's also a fair statement.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you didn't like the caring that she did for your mother, but actually her leaving had to do with your not paying her. You didn't fire her. Okay, let's put it this way. Did you fire her?
No, Your Honor, because I did not have the power to do
No.
so.
You did not fire her.
No, Your Honor.
That's not
Who
true,
put in?
Your Honor.
Who is Ron Webster?
I am Ronald.
You hired her.
No, Your Honor.
Well, this is you. Need a good caregiver for my mom. Need. That means I need.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, let's go to one other place, okay? And then I'll let you talk. Right now, it doesn't seem to be that you're losing, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tracy grins. Caption coming up.
In March, Miss Gallen, where's my money? You know, I'm taking care of your mom. There's no money. What does he say?
He kept blaming it on IHS. He needed to talk to them, and IHS just kept responding to me and was just like, he's crazy.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Tracy and Ronald.
Tracy Gallen is accusing her client, Ronald Webster, of refusing to pay her after caring for his mother. Ronald claims Tracy smoked cigarettes and marijuana while working.
How much do you think the time that she worked there, taking care of your mother, was worth?
Your Honor, I personally cannot put a price on that. I know she's contracted through IHSS for $16 per hour.
Did your mother have a life insurance policy?
My mother had a couple of life insurance policies, yes.
What were they, and who were the beneficiaries?
I was a beneficiary
Of
both
one.
of
How
them.
much?
The total was $3,700, Your Honor.
Did she have a separate policy for her burial?
No, Your Honor.
Did she own any property anywhere?
No, Your Honor.
So what was the total you received from the estate?
The policies was set to pay $1,300, which I have not received all.
You mean in addition to the $3,700, you'll receive another $1,300?
13,000 is what I meant to say. If
Oh,
I said 1,300, I misspoke. 13,000.
13,000.
Total. Okay.
How much did you pay for the internment, the service, if there was one, whatever? How much did you pay? You paid for it, I assume, out of this money.
I have not done all the math. It's upwards of $15,000 or so, as I'm still.
You haven't done all the math.
I'm still
Fine.
making payments.
How much are you owed?
I have it there, 26. The whole breakdown is,
And that's,
the amount was $29.12 minus the
that's-
$300.
You say he gave you $300, not $140.
Correct.
Okay.
He cashed at me $300.
My question is that at $16 an hour?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is what you would have made.
Correct.
Do you have any other evidence to support the fact that he was helping you or that he agreed that this money was due and owed to you?
I have the email here where he was asking me to send a total of hours what he owed me.
May I see that, Kevin, please?
Kevin collects a document from Tracy, then brings it to Judy, who reviews it.
And then this is also the payment that he did pay me, the $300.
Well, this is from you.
Yeah, he asked me
him.
to send that to him because he kept acting
No,
confused.
but this is from you to him.
Correct.
Can I see your answer to this when she sends you this
I
document?
don't have that email.
Well,
And
do you have...
I'm not sure if there's an answer. I could check my phone.
No. Okay. Now, in March, Miss Gallen, where's my money? You know, I'm taking care of your mom. There's no money. What does he say?
He kept blaming it on IHS. He needed to talk to them, and IHS just kept responding to me and was just like, he's crazy. I don't know why he keep reaching out to us. We keep repeating the same thing.
He said he never
has to
filled
pay
out
you.
forms.
Also, this is the contract that he signed stating that I am the IHS provider If there's any extra fees that was over the hours that were allowed for her, that he would have to cover out of his pocket.
No, he said he never filled out these forms.
Well, no, that is the contract that he signed. We have to sign that with IHHS first to approve me even being the worker for his mom. So once they approved me and I went through orientation, he signed that. He would be responsible for the hours. I kind of marked it on there where it states that this is the contract and this, this is what comes with it. Also, here are the timesheets I submitted.
Okay, not necessary. He acknowledges that he didn't pay you any more than, he says 100, you said 3, that's actually in your favor, $2,612. I suggest you take it out of the $13,000 that you received from your mother's life insurance. I'm sure she would like her caregiver paid, the one who took care of her in the last couple of months of her life. Your counterclaim, which is ridiculous, is dismissed as for the reasons I already said. The fact that the defendant may have either smoked with or allowed your mother to smoke in the last couple of years of her life is ridiculous. You're the one who said to me, my mother is my mother is my mother. She'll do what she wants to do. Not something like that. Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're done. So's your counterclaim. $2,600.
This court is adjourned.
My mom's death, I've been doing everything I can to make sure that she was taken care of. And, it's unfortunate.
I'm really happy with the decision today. I was glad that she was able to see through all the lies and everything.
The plaintiff would give her cigarettes to stash for her so she would not overindulge herself smoking cigarettes.
Yes, I would go and get her the cigarettes because that was her last thing that she wanted, so.
At best, while taking care of my mom, she did a pretty good job with that. I've never denied that. I've also wanted her to get paid.
Just blamed it on IHHS and there was no really reason for him not to pay me at all.
I've been ready to put it behind me. This has been a nightmare since my mom's death and right before that. So I'm certainly glad to get it behind me.
I really did give her the best care that I could, She was happy. She was very happy, so I'm okay with everything.
Sarah.
Cases like this are sad, but it really shines the light on the whole sector that is elder law. And there's so many federal and state programs to make the elderly and vulnerable feel more comfortable, to be able to stay in their home, to be able to pick their own provider. But unfortunately, because of all the overlap and lack of oversight, there's a lot of fraud that takes place with the most vulnerable population. And like you were just talking about, your mother is the one that you rely on for a majority of your younger years, to keep you alive, bathe you, feed you. And towards the end, it's just unfortunate that they don't receive the same care as we do in the beginning.
Yeah, that not being watched as carefully by the people that they cared for.
Yeah, but the plaintiff here surprised me. I mean, working 2 months, 5 days a week.
And she stuck with the job.
For no money and no real end in sight for when she was going to be paid. I respect her for that. She obviously cares about her business and about her craft as being a healthcare worker, so I appreciate that, but it shouldn't fall on kind-hearted people like that to take care of our elderly.
Maybe. Not sure. Yeah. I think that not everybody is fortunate enough to have children.
Yeah.
If you have children that fit into that mold. And I think that it's wonderful that the state, for those people that don't have loving families to support them if they're sick or elderly, for the state to provide a mechanism for those people to get from their bed to a bathroom, to another room, to a meal, perhaps. I think it's wonderful. I think that this country, Sarah, can't do everything.
Yeah.
And I know that we discussed a moment ago, not bringing in another case, but to me, when you don't give money to somebody who did work in the betterance of society, and you send stimulus money to prisoners who were there because they did something wrong, and you send $1.2 billion in stimulus money to people who are serving life terms in prison, to me, doesn't make sense. But perhaps somebody will straighten me out a couple of cases from now.
Maybe, we'll see.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He was becoming an annoying tenant.
Yes. All the sexual acts taking place.
So you heard what was going on behind his closed doors?
Right, day and night.
Okay.
Like there's no tomorrow.
Maybe, maybe jealous.
This is Judy Justice. Brian Davis is suing his former landlord, Alex Zadie, for a false arrest and bail money.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2027, Davis versus Zadie.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, a couple of years ago, you were a tenant of the defendant's.
Correct, Your Honor.
You rented a room from him?
Correct, Your
in
Honor.
his house. For how long?
For about a year, a little over.
From when to when?
2020, I want to say the beginning of the year till about the end.
Do you remember the dates that he was a tenant?
Yes, they're incorrect what he's saying. It was from May of 2020 to November 2020.
Does that sound right, Mr. Davis?
It's something like that, yeah.
May, June, July, August, September, October, and when in November did he leave?
I believe it was by the 10th.
This is what your case is about. Briefly, it is your claim that you and Mr. Zadie had some sort of an argument.
Correct.
Which you'll tell me about. And Mr. Zadie called the police. You were taken from the premises.
Mm-hmm.
You were arrested, spent the night in jail, bailed yourself out. And this happened in 2020.
Correct.
In November of 2020. Your lawsuit is for false arrest and actual damages. You had to post bail and for filing a false police report. The reason that you have delayed for 2 years in bringing this case against him is because you say you had another action pending.
Correct, Your Honor.
What was the nature of the other action that you had pending?
It was a speeding issue with the police.
Well, it's not a speeding issue with the police. Were you stopped for speeding? Were you arrested for speeding?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
You were arrested for speeding?
Yeah, and they called it a 2800 VC, if my memory serves me correct.
Well, I don't know what that is.
It's, I guess, evading.
Look into it.
In what city and state do you live?
Irvine, California.
Let me understand this. Very few people are arrested for speeding. You remember what you were arrested for, sir? You weren't arrested for speeding.
They called it evading an officer because I didn't pull over right away.
So you were evading an officer. Let's try that, Sarah.
Evading a police officer in a vehicle. It's vehicle code 2800-1.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, what does it say?
Prohibits evading an officer in a vehicle, which means willfully fleeing from a police officer when the officer is pursuing the person in a car or on a bike. The offense is a misdemeanor punishable by up to 1 year in jail.
Okay, so you had a misdemeanor pending, right? Anything
Correct.
else?
No, that was it.
Anything else historically?
Yes, I did have historical priors and cases and stuff from my past. Yes, I did.
Recent past or distant past?
Distant past.
How distant?
Years. I want to say 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't have to go into 2004. So you had this case pending and you felt that it was inappropriate to bring a civil case against him.
Yeah, because I didn't want the cases to intertwine, Your Honor.
They weren't going to intertwine. The case that he brought against you was eventually dismissed.
Correct.
In what month and year was it dismissed?
It was dismissed the same month, about 2 weeks after that.
Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. So let me understand this. He alleged that you assaulted him or threatened him. You were taken into custody. The DA examined the case and decided not to prosecute it.
Correct.
And that was 2 years ago.
Correct.
Well, I don't know who gave you advice, sir, or whether you did this on your own, but bringing a civil case against someone for something has no impact whatsoever on a pending criminal case, be it a felony or a misdemeanor. You know, if you were driving in a car and someone hit you in the rear in November of 2020, and you waited 2 years to bring that because you had this evading a police officer action and you thought that that was a valid reason, your case would be dismissed for the hit in the rear and whatever injuries you had, because you're supposed to bring these things in a timely fashion.
I understand.
2 years is not a timely fashion. Now that I've suggested that to you, I would like to hear what you say transpired in November 2020, to the best of your recollection.
On November the 9th, 2020, me and my former landlord, Alex Aditi over here, we had an argument about a guest that I had over.
Okay. You had an argument over the phone or in person?
Over the phone.
Tell me how that phone call was initiated.
He texted me some things and I called him because I wanted to...
Okay. He texted you. Do you have a copy of that text?
No, I don't have the text.
Do you recall what that text said?
Yes, I do.
Tell me what it said.
I told him that he has to get his girlfriend out of the house because she's been coming in every day and night, staying there.
Okay. So you said, in effect, I rented you this room, not your girlfriend.
Correct.
You got to get her out of the house.
Yes.
Okay.
I had
You remember her
already
name?
addressed to him
Just
prior.
just a second. You remember her name?
Not
What was her name?
Twana.
Now, when
The
you
woman I
rented the
was in
room
love
in May, just a second. When you rented the room in May and you moved in, did Tawana move in with you?
She did not move in with me.
So when you rented the room for yourself in May, you rented the room as a single person.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And when did you bring Tawana into the room?
It would be once in a while.
No. What month, sir?
I don't recall the exact month.
What month, sir?
It started happening like back in August, every day. It started one day, then every other day, and then it became constant day and night.
For how long?
For a long, long time, till towards the November when it just went out of proportion.
The argument was about having his girlfriend, according to you, practically living there.
Right.
And you didn't want her there.
No.
Okay, because you rented a room to a single man who, until the girlfriend started to come in, I assume you didn't have trouble with.
Right.
So that's what your text message said to him in November. And as a result of that text message, you called him on the phone. I'm just trying to lay out the story.
Okay.
So you called him on the phone and you said what to him and he said what to you?
I don't recall exactly what I said to him, but I remember he told me to tell her, get the out, get out my house, get the out right now. Your girlfriend is a. He was saying a bunch of derogatory things over the phone to me, and then hung up in my face. I'm working at the time, so when I came back.
Did you call your girlfriend?
No, I didn't call her.
Did you text her?
We speak regularly. We're talking all
No,
the time.
then.
Yeah, she knew about it. She did.
Don't tell me what she knew. I just asked you if you texted her or called her.
Yeah, I did.
You did. And when you texted or called her, was she in the house? Was she in your room?
No, she was gone already at this time. When we
Is
were
that-
arguing,
just
she
a
was.
second. Is that because he told her to leave?
No, she was leaving already. She had work to go to. She wasn't living there. She had her own place and job in Lakewood, California. And I would tell him that all the time, but he would always insinuate that, oh, no, she's living there. I'm like, no, she's not. She pays $2,000 in rent.
He lives in the house with you.
Right.
Now, before Tawana, had you had any difficulty with him? You
None
moved
at
in
all.
May. May, did you have any difficulty? No.
No.
June, did you have any difficulty?
No.
July, did you have any difficulty?
No.
No. You didn't have difficulty until Tawana came.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the difficulty. So he told you in a very rude way, if I accept that, to get Tawana out of his house.
Correct, Your Honor.
Then you came home from work. What time did you get home from work?
About 9-ish.
And Tawana was gone.
Yeah, she was gone.
Had she taken her things?
There was nothing for her to take. She didn't bring stuff over there. She wasn't living there.
No, but she came over there and stayed a few days a week and never had
Maybe
any
an
stuff.
overnight bag.
Okay,
That's
but
it.
she took
yeah.
it with her when she
Yeah,
left.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got home about 9 o'clock, and what happened?
I got home at 9 and I said, don't disrespect me and my woman. You know, this is a woman I
Okay.
love.
When you got home, you walked in the front door. Where was he?
He was in the kitchen and he had a female guest there too. That was
He's
there
allowed
for
to have a
weeks.
female guest. It's his house.
Yeah, right. The pot calling the kettle black, basically.
No,
Hypocrisy.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, if you rent a room to a single guy, did you have a lease agreement with him?
Yeah, I did have a lease agreement.
Did you have a written lease?
Yes, I did.
Did your written lease provide that you were going to live there?
Yes, it did.
Just you?
Yes.
Well, you bring in another person, that's in violation of the lease.
That's not in violation of the lease because there was nothing in the lease that said I couldn't have guests. He actually said I could have
guest
guests.
is one thing. A guest is somebody that doesn't come with an overnight bag regularly.
No, he said
One
I
day,
could have an overnight
2 days, 3 days, 4 days. That's more than an occasional guest. That's somebody that comes and goes even when you're not there. Because according to you, you contacted Tawana while you were at work and she was at the house.
That's false.
Well, I thought you contacted her and then you said she left. She took a few things with her, probably just an overnight bag.
No, she was not going there when I wasn't there. That's false.
Are you saying that she was not in your room when you were not home?
When I was not there, no,
Yeah.
she would not be there.
That true?
No, he had made a key to her. She would come as she pleased.
Did you make her
That's
a key?
false. That's absolutely false.
Did you make her a key?
No, that's
is my
absolutely
question.
false. No, I
Do
didn't
you
make her
still
a key.
speak to Tawana?
No, I don't. We kind of fell out of touch.
If I were to call Tawana and ask her whether or not you made a key, would she tell me she did or she didn't?
She would say that I didn't.
Didn't.
Yeah.
Phone number.
I have it in my spam.
I don't have her number saved here.
I'm not exactly buying the fact that Tawana did not have access to the home even when you weren't there. Even if it was just a half hour before you came home from work, sir. You work until 9 o'clock every night?
Your Honor, I had this to say about the whole key situation. I gave her my key when I was locked up in jail from his false police report. I gave her my property, and she had my key then to help me get the stuff out of his home. But I never went and made her a copy of a key anywhere.
Did she ever use your key other than when you were incarcerated?
No.
He says she did.
I said, you're a bitch. I called him a bitch. I did.
He's a guy. Why would you call him a...
It's gender neutral at this point.
You think that that's gender neutral?
Yeah, at this point.
Well, there you go. That's why I have you here.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Ryan and Alex.
Ryan Davis claims his former landlord, Alex Zadie, owes for bail money after Alex had him falsely arrested.
Okay, so now you're having this discussion. He's in the kitchen. You come home from work at 9 o'clock, and you went into the kitchen to look for him.
Correct.
And when you found him, tell me what happened.
We had just a brief, maybe 2-minute conversation or argument, discourse about what the things that he said. And I said, you know, don't be disrespectful to my woman and me. And I said, you know, you're a bitch. I called him a bitch. I did. But I never threatened him,
No, you
harassed
said
him.
you're what?
That's it.
What does that mean? That's a half a sentence.
Well...
He was calling him a bitch. You are a bitch.
Oh, you were calling him?
Yes, because he says these things over the phone.
He's a guy. Why would
Yeah.
you call him a...
Because he says all these things over the phone, and he gets real loud, and he's a completely different person when he's on the phone than when I'm in
you
his...
think that's gender neutral?
Yeah, at this point.
Well, there you go. That's why I have you here. Okie dokie.
So...
Okay, so you were going, don't call me that. You called him a name, and then things got heated, and then what happened?
No, things didn't get heated. After that, he said, oh, that's how you want to do it? And then I said, if you want to get me evicted, you have to go through it the right way and do it legally and give me a 30-day eviction.
No, he must have said to you, I want you out of here because you called me a name.
It
If
wasn't
you said,
a
if you want me evicted, then he had to have said something about getting you out.
He didn't really see, I don't remember him mentioning anything about me getting out. I just remember the fact that he called the police to get
No,
me
before
out.
he called the police. You're still in the kitchen. Do you ever leave the kitchen?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
I went to my room.
Okay. Before you went to your room, did you hear him on the phone with the police?
I did.
Before you went
Yes.
to your room?
Yes.
Okay. And?
And I didn't sit there and listen to his phone call. I took a video and I started recording because I didn't want to be made out to look like the guilty party. And I had it pretty much live streaming the whole time, which was an Instagram video.
Can I see it?
No, I don't have the video. The police
But then it
deleted
doesn't
it.
exist. If you
Yeah.
don't have it, it doesn't
Yeah,
exist for my purpose.
Understood. Understood.
But you had it then?
Yeah, I did have it then.
You did. And the police came?
Yes.
And I assume if the police came, you showed them the video.
Yeah, I was showing it to him.
And despite showing them the video, they took you into custody.
Despite showing them the video, they
Just
took
a
me
second.
into custody.
Despite looking at the video,
Yes.
which I haven't seen.
They didn't look at the video. They refused to look at it.
Well, let's go one step further. You see, Mr. Davis, this is why you bring actions right away, so that not only everybody's memory is fresh, but if I wanted to call a police officer
where you're
who
coming.
responded or whatever, that's why you bring an action right away.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So now you're taken into custody and you have a video that is totally, according to you, exculpatory.
I don't know the definition.
Exculpatory means it says that you were not guilty of anything.
Okay.
And you appear in court?
No, I didn't appear in court.
Never?
No, never.
Well, what happened to the case?
The case was thrown out. It was a DA reject because there was insufficient evidence that I did anything to him.
And you never showed the district attorney your video?
I didn't get a chance to because the video was deleted by the police.
The police department deleted your video?
Yeah, they did.
You are a terrible victim of circumstance, Mr. Davis. Did you ever make a complaint that the police department deleted your video that would be exculpatory?
No.
Why not? I would if I had.
Maybe ignorance of the law, I guess.
What?
I said maybe ignorance of the law, I guess. Not knowing. When you know better, you do better.
No, Mr. Davis. Actually, I mean, sometimes you really don't know what the law is, but you were smart enough, you said, to tell me, because you knew I would say, why wait 2 years, that you didn't want this action to conflict with another action. Well,
Yeah.
that's a two-process thinker.
I've had something like that happen to me before where I had a criminal case and a civil case pending, and the dates were kind of intertwining and messing and then about to get in the way of my civil case. So I didn't want to make that same mistake with this case, Your Honor.
Okay, so you want to tell me what your version of the events were of November 9th of 2020?
Yes, Your Honor. I had gone to Mexico for a business trip meeting, and I had my friend who was visiting from Mexico staying at my place, and at that same time, I had another roommate who was renting the room next to Ryan Davis's room. His name was Dave. I received a call from Dave on November 9th that it's constant sex going on.
Okay, so you received a call from the other person living in your house who you were renting a room to.
Right.
Okay, and then, don't tell me what he said. Can't tell me, that's all hearsay.
Well, I've heard prior to all the sexual acts taking place.
Listen to me. You personally,
Yes.
when you were home.
Yes.
Okay, so you heard what was going on behind his closed doors.
Right, day and night.
Okay.
Like there's
fine.
no tomorrow.
Okay, well, maybe, maybe jealous.
Whitney smirks.
Okay.
Disrespectful.
Okay, so he was becoming an annoying tenant.
Yes.
For whatever reason.
Yes.
Keep going. You sent him a text. He called you. You had heated words. He comes home from work. You're in the kitchen.
Yes.
He comes into the kitchen and
I told him, Ryan, we've gone through this many times before. I've addressed this to you about your girlfriend coming here all the time, day and night, and now she's here every day. What he was doing was sneaking her in late at night, and that's how I will know that she snuck back in. There were times I came home from work, and she was already there when Ryan wasn't even there, so she had the key, obviously.
Okay, now let's go to November 9th.
November 9th, I confronted him. I said that this is just way too much. My other roommate wants to leave. He cannot take it anymore.
And
then he said, well, she isn't here. And my...
Okay, he said she wasn't here. Keep going.
Then he cussed at my friend who was visiting from Mexico. He said, get this bitch out of here.
That's not true.
Don't interrupt.
And,
okay.
I said, you can't talk to her.
Okay, let's go.
Right. Then he went into his room. He came back. He brought a samurai sword with him, and he flashed it at me. I'm going to slice you in half like a butter.
Okay.
What?
And I'm like shocked at that time, don't know what's going on with him because he's just changing character. I'm scared of my life. I'm scared of my guests.
Okay, and then what happened? So
And
he
then
came out
I said, you need to get out of here. You need to move.
And then he went back. He didn't do anything with the sword.
No, he didn't. He went back in the room with the sword. He put it there. Then he came back and he pushed me against the wall. As he was pushing me, I tried to block him by putting my two hands up. And when he pushed me, a bruise, I had a cut on my wrist, but there was a bruise.
Okay.
And
now,
I
at what
said, I'm
point?
going to call the police.
Okay, so you called the police when he came back out of his room the second time, this time without the sword. And the police took a report.
Yes.
Do you have that report?
Yes.
I'd
right
like
here,
to see it.
Alex produces a document.
Mr. Davis, do you have a copy of the police report or
I
any
have it right
follow-up
here, too,
report?
Your
I'd like to see that too.
Kevin brings Ryan's document to Judy.
Mr. Davis, where did you get the sword from?
My girlfriend at the time,
Which girlfriend?
Twana.
When did she get it for you?
She got it during my birthday, for a birthday gift.
When's your birthday?
October 31st.
And this happened on November 9th.
Correct.
Between October 31st and November 9th, did you have occasion to show Mrs. Zaidi prior to November 9th? So
Never,
between
Your Honor.
31st and the 8th, did you show Mr. Zaidi the sword?
Never, Your Honor. He's
Just
a liar.
just a sec. Just answer my question. He was there or not there, according
He
to
was
you?
there.
He was there?
Correct.
Okay, good.
His guest was also there for about 2 weeks.
Just who cares about his guest? He owns the house.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Ryan and Alex.
Ryan Davis has accused his former landlord, Alex Zaidi, of causing a false arrest. Alex says Ryan threatened him with a samurai sword.
Okay. October 31st to November 8th, did you ever show Mr. Zaidi the sword?
No, Your Honor.
No.
No.
Okay. So unless he went into your room,
He went into my room.
unless he went into your room prior to November 9th, there was no way he would have seen the sword.
Correct.
Okay. And when did you go away on this business trip, sir?
On the 9th.
That day?
Yes, in the morning.
And on what day did you first see this sword that was in his room?
On the evening of November 9th.
That was the first time, not his birthday, not second day, not third day. Okay. Does his room have a lock on it, by the way?
From inside.
From inside. Mr. Davis, were you on probation at the time of this incident for something in Riverside that involved a fraud?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And that wasn't a fraud dating back to 2004?
It was dating back.
No, it wasn't an incident.
For 2000 and, I believe, 15.
Okay. So when you told me before, and I'm not even going to have Whitney read it back, you said the last time you had this speeding little problem and evading police, I said, well, before that? And you said, yeah, I did before that in 2004.
Correct.
But that was a lie.
Which was like...
Just a second, that was a lie. You had another case involving a fraud in 2015 on which you were on probation, which means that you were either found guilty or took a plea.
Correct.
Okay. And when the police officer, Mr. Davis, took down your statement, you said that while you acknowledged that you had a samurai sword in your room, you said you had never shown it to Mr. Zadie.
Correct, Your Honor.
You had never showed it at any time. Well, then how would he know that you had a samurai sword, sir, in your room when he called the police?
Because he was going in my room, I believe, when I was not there, going through my stuff.
Okay.
That's the only other way I can know that he was...
I'm not finished reading this, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
That's like the 2015 case. You just remember. Do you have any other police reports that you'd like me to see, Mr. Davis?
Not a police report, but I have the bail bonds receipt that I paid. And
I'm not interested in your bail bonds receipt.
I have the DA reject.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, they rejected the case right here.
Yeah,
They refused
I'd like
to file
to see
charges. Your Honor, there's a conflicting story where he said he was left on the 9th because he was there 2 weeks with his guest prior to that. So how could he leave on the 9th if his guest was there 2 weeks prior to
I
the
asked
9th?
him when he left for his... Sir, you didn't understand the reason for my question. I wanted to know if he had been gone from October 31st, which was your birthday, to the 8th. That's why I asked him when he left on his business trip.
Correct.
And he said he didn't leave until the date of this incident. You want to say he left before?
He did.
That would
leave
be
before.
interesting.
He
What?
did leave before.
He did.
Yes.
On what date did he leave?
I don't know the exact date, but I
A
know
week before, 5 days before?
it was maybe about a few weeks before.
November 9th?
Yeah, a few weeks.
Then he wouldn't have been able to see your sword because he wouldn't have been coming in and out of your room.
There from the 9th.
Well,
from
this
the
happened on the
31st
9th.
From the 31st to the 9th, he was there.
Well, you just told me he left 2 weeks before.
I'm saying he was gone before that date, and then on the 31st, between the 31st and the 9th, he was there at the place.
Okay, well, that's what he says. He said he was there, and the business was only one day. He left on the 9th, and he came home on the 9th. You said, no, he was there for 2 weeks before. Well, if he was there for 2 weeks before and you didn't get the sword until 31st of October, he could not have seen it by going in and out of your room. So you have to sort of get your story straight, sir. So he was there or not there, according to you?
He was there.
He was there?
Correct.
Okay, good.
His guest was also there for about 2 weeks.
Just who cares about his guest? He owns the house.
Okay.
Okay, it was a misdemeanor case and they declined to prosecute it.
Correct.
Your case is dismissed, Mr. Davis, for several reasons. It's dismissed because it was brought in an untimely fashion. It was brought 2 years after the fact for no valid reason.
Your Honor,
it's dismissed for that. It's dismissed for a second reason, because I find some of your testimony, sir, incredible. And one of the reasons I say that is because you were not forthcoming with a legitimate answer to me with regard to your prior history, which isn't always dispositive, but if you had something pending for evading the police, and you had something pending for evading the police while you were on probation for a crime for which you were convicted, either after trial or after hearing, do you understand? You would remember that. Are you still on probation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
A mistake, Your Honor. You have guests over 2 to 3 weeks at a time, but I have a girl over for 3 days, and now it's World War III.
He was only allowed to stay there by himself, not with his girlfriend.
I never went at him with a samurai sword.
It was pretty scary.
He basically just used the system against me because I'm a person of color and I have a record already, so I fit the bill.
He had a criminal record. When I rented the room to him, he was asking for a second chance.
It's easier for them to lock somebody up who's already been to jail.
Nobody was renting him the room, and he was saying he's trying to start a new life.
I'm 6'1", 200 pounds. I wouldn't even need a weapon if I was going to assault him, but I never did.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, there are so many lessons from this case, I think, Sarah. One of them is there's a reason that the law tells you to bring an action in a timely fashion, right?
Many reasons.
Many reasons. One is because it's not like an afterthought, you know, and there are reasons for delays. You were in a hospital, you go into the armed forces, but here there was no really legitimate reason for him not bringing this kind of case in a timely fashion. And the other one that's always a good thing to me, what did you think about his credibility?
Yeah, I think it's hard for a fact finder to believe the totality of your testimony if one of the first questions, just about a simple question of your prior history with law enforcement, if you have any pending charges, I think that's a very simple question. If you aren't fully truthful with the fact finder on that question, it makes it really difficult, and the rest of your testimony is now suspect.
That's true. And it's a good lesson because sometimes you think, well, it's sort of an innocuous question. I don't have to get it. But if I, sitting as a juror in a case, see that somebody is fabricating a fact, and they want you to believe them, you know, they're saying it's just that, I want you to believe my last law enforcement issue was in 2004.
Oh, yeah. A long time ago, no run-ins.
Right, nothing else, and a speeding.
Yeah.
Ticket. And
it sets the tone in a negative way, and it makes it difficult for the fact finder to find in your favor.
I'm glad. So you agreed with that?
100%.
Good.
1.